Hi everyone, Trina here, and we're in Origins, Angelic at Origins, and 6.3, and we were talking about angels, divas, and mortals. And we just left off where they were talking about how Jesus would actually summon specific angels, and how he was talking about connecting to the different elemental principles that govern the world we see, being earth, air, fire, and water. And I thought that was pretty amazing, because this is how I would see the Lord when I would work with him. He would always teach me about energy and elements and logic, how things kind of worked. I had to learn between my spiritual reality and the physical reality, because when I was little I thought they were the same, and I thought I could do the things there that I could do here, and he had explained to me that that was not the way it worked. These beings, they're our counsels, our guides. They're always watching over us. We feel so separate here when truly we're not. And it's just remembering that we do have this support, remembering that we are more than just our physical body. We are energy bodies wrapped around a human body. So the higher into the energy levels you go, the closer you get back to your remembrance of the unity of oneness that we are in essence. And it's so profound to think that we are all, in essence, the same soul, experiencing through separateness, individuality. But the closer we get back to source, the more individuality we lose, and we just become more part of the wholeness, part of everything. So that wholeness and that oneness, the telepathic knowing, the communication, the higher vibrations, this is what so many of us feel with the homesick. We feel homesick and like we don't belong. It's because a part of you still remembers the higher realms that you come from. So this to me made so much sense on why I was like, this place just isn't right. It's just not right. It doesn't feel right. It was very hard for me to integrate into this dark, dense matter, because I had such profound memories of the higher realms. And I'm so grateful for that now, but it was hard when I was growing up. So this was a very strong challenge for me to know what to say, what not to say, and how not to lose the memories of what I had when I was a child. So you guys all have these memories too. It's just a matter of diving in to your cells and grabbing them and viewing them, because as soon as you view them, then they're back in the memory, conscious memory, to where you have access to it. So these things are all inside of us. Even past lives, there's so much inside of you, but you've just been blocked from it, from the human body. But through the subconscious mind and through the imagination, you can reconnect to all these parts of yourself that you just don't remember. So we will continue with how our angelic origins and how we come from that first. So for many centuries, religion has taught that angels and humans are essentially two different species. In other words, a human being can never evolve into an angel, and vice versa. While it is easy to understand how we might believe this to be true, after all, the nature of the human being is concrete, limited, and mortal, and that of an angel is ethereal, transcendent, and immortal. This is, in fact, not the case in reality. Each one of us begins our journey in the Divic, or the angelic kingdom. Ancient wisdom confirms this. To many of us, it is a familiar thought that men and angels belong to a composite body and that they work together to fulfill the purposes of nature, law, and human evolution. But to many of us, it is quite a different matter to begin to realize that each man is not only human, but is also devic. I don't know how to pronounce that. Sorry, guys. In the most profound aspects of his nature. He is indeed man and diva in his own right. And these two inseparable parts of himself constitute the whole individual, one part totally unable to function without the other. The soul descends from the cosmic ocean, or ocean of love and mercy, where it has been in total oneness. But now it is challenged to begin the journey of learning and individualization. When the soul, in the form of a pure white flame, begins its descent from the ocean of love and mercy, it first enters the 6th and 7th dimensions. At this point, it has no experience of life. Nothing that makes it or marks it separate from any other spark of the body of God. It is only aware of one eternal reality that connects us to the whole. But it has limited awareness of anything other than swimming in the cosmic sea and its desire to serve the universal plan. Thus, in order to grow, the soul must acquire a series of subtle energy bodies that will allow it to build its own experience. Just as we must have a physical body to participate on the plane of existence, in the 7th dimension, the soul acquires a soul, or a diamond body. Then, in the 6th dimension, it takes on the etheric body, or the Buddha body. This body is sometimes referred to as the rainbow body because of all its brilliant colors. In these 2 higher dimensions, it also acquires the Devic matrix. This is where we get the matrices and we start to get the templates that form everything in what we see and how our body works, how nature works. We have all these templates that were given to us when we first started coming down into the different energetic layers and levels, and eventually coming into full-blown form and matter. So, the divas are associated with the angels, yet the Devic kingdom is also including trillions of other diverse beings, from the smallest plant, elemental, to the fairies, from personal guardian angels to the largest archangel. But since these beings have not obtained mental, astral, or causal bodies, they are not anchored into the 3rd and 4th dimensional realms that we as humans are. Their souls are anchored in the 5th, 6th, and 7th dimensions, even though they may be on assignment in the lower realms. With some exceptions, these beings are invisible to human beings unless they wish to be seen, or if a person has developed their inner sight. Theosophist Maria Parison writes, each entity from the smallest to the highest has its own particular work to perform. And just as the most exalted diva uses his mighty intelligence in the forming of world destinies, so the little nature spirit uses his intelligence in directing the process of the mineral, animal, and vegetable kingdoms. like a great symphonic orchestra with millions of instruments. These Devic beings serve in the divine plan, each according to its own nature. Spiritual maturity and the ability to channel divine forces. Thus, a diva may appear as a whirling gas cloud, a plasma being, or the translucent intelligences that surround the world of nature. In time, it learns to direct the life force energies of a tree, of a forest, or a mountain, overseeing the worlds of nature to sustain and amplify existing universal templates. This capacity to direct the energies of the universe is gained over time. So in the beginning, a diva may only be able to encourage the life force in a flower, a stone, or a bush. But over time, its ability to work in larger ways increases. A slice from the soul records of a Devic spirit, or Devic. Hypnotherapist Dolores Cannon writes about the journey of a soul through the Devic realms in the past life regression session she has done for a number of people, some whom report lives on other planets, as well as lives in the celestial realms. Before ever coming to Earth, in a legacy from the stars, she shares an account of a young man whose sessions involve past lives in the Devic kingdom. There he found himself spending thousands of years helping to maintain the energies of a star, acting as a plasma being who converted the fumes of a planet into a breathable atmosphere, learning how to transform denser energies of matter like rocks. In one session, he found himself in a classroom being taught by a higher being who was teaching the divas how energy moves from thought to gas, then to denser matter, and finally to the rock. When asked why the physical world had to be formed, this is what he said. Because that is God's plan, that spirit take on the body and form, and that the soul experiences form. There must be a spirit in matter. God must be experienced in matter. We're learning that each form, each level is just a denser form of spirit. Matter, I mean, either God, life force must be in everything. Everything must be alive. Spirit must be able to live in the rocks, in those forms, not alive, not as my soul. The life force is thinner. It keeps what I am alive. When this being was asked about the purpose of evolution, he replied, to be, to know, in a movable being. This is why I am, is to express, to know in a movable being, not as a rock. I feel that I am to know simplicity and also complexity. I must know how to put things together for a greater purpose. I must embrace the larger thing that I am. I am a little point, and I must expand myself to embrace all of God. I must learn to love more. I think I am to grow into a larger form than what I am now in this life. More like an angelic, larger form, where I will touch and teach and help and be with smaller forms, like a guardian angel. I think this is my destiny. To do this. I am created to do this. So, in the 6th, 7th dimensions, the soul starts out as a simple Devic spirit, serving in one of the 4 elemental kingdoms: air, earth, fire, and water. This is to our Devic matrix. Then slowly we gain more complexity, learning how to direct the universal energies of the God force towards life-affirming end. This apprenticeship of individualization and co-creativity takes place over billions of years, until the soul finally is ready to acquire a causal body in the 5th dimension. Once this happens, the diva or the angel is born as a more individuated soul. In the 5th dimension, having its other subtle body, sheath, slowly built around it. In this dimension, it acquires a causal body, a mental body, and then an individual ego. This allows it to more fully experience the formless level of the mental plane, and then to finally begin its descent into the worlds of form. In the 4th and 3rd dimensions, depending on how long the soul remains in the 5th dimension, its various experiences will help to shape the many things about its character and the path that lies ahead of it, strengthening certain affinities for music, dance, arts, color, plants, flowers, or even healing. Other souls may develop an affinity for observing the stars, the celestial web of life, or studying the laws of the universe. Still, another soul might become strong in the attributes of courage, justice, lawmaking, or wisdom. These affinities depend on the length of time that a soul stays in the 5th dimension and the experiences it begins to have. During that time, the soul is in the 5th dimension. It joins a soul family. This family usually consists of some 8 to 20 members who start at approximately the same degree of spiritual development. This group has one or more guides assigned to it, whose job is to personally help that circle of souls in their evolution. Eventually, after millions of years, the soul will decide to enter life. In the 4th dimension, or the astral plane, the soul will acquire the addition of 2 subtle energy bodies, the astral and the emotional. These 2 bodies are very intertwined and deal with our relationship to our sense of self-worth and our relationship with others. Eventually, the soul will become bold enough to take on a physical body, encouraged and guided not only by its personal guides, but also by a circle of very advanced spiritual beings. This is the Council of Elders, who will oversee its long evolution and with whom the soul will meet at the end of every lifetime. This council works with the guardian angels and the soul to determine the soul's goals for every lifetime. All of these wise, patient beings are part of our spiritual support system, who oversee the evolutionary journey of each individual soul. We could also call them the Lords of Karma, for they are involved in overseeing our evolutionary journey for hundreds of lifetimes. Some have called them the Council of Elders, the Council of Light, or the lords of karma. Yet, all of these are different names for the same spiritual wise beings who help to guide our personal development. Once the soul has entered into the physical realm, it begins to experience the 1,000,001 emotions that will flood it as it embarks on its course curriculum. I felt like that, like crushing magnetic pain. It was intense. Acquiring the countless experiences that will allow its greatness to emerge. In this process, the soul will forget who it really is until it finally, by its own free will, chooses to begin the journey back up the spiritual ladder to remembrance and union. Professor John Alijo, a former vice president of the Theosophical Society in America, explains, "We humans, far from being the crown of evolution, as we won't begin to imagine ourselves, we are actually the nadir of a spiritual development. At the most, individual of all beings, we are the most separate from the divine unity, and thus the farthest of all beings from our common source. In this monadic development, it reaches its lowest point. Our future is to reestablish connections, to forge the links that will bind us back to the unity, to become one, consciously, deliberately, and of our own free will. At the Omega, point of evolution, we are to merge without losing our identities, to recreate the unity, but then a unity that knows itself and has chosen its state. In time, over hundreds of incarnations on this planet and others, we move forward as a conscious seeker of the light. Eventually, as a result of our experience of suffering, we learn to become a willing servant of the divine. Having forged the steel of our own free will into a complex, multidimensional being of light who has acquired enough mastery to fully become an evolved spiritual master. Madame Blavatsky writes, "In sober truth, every spirit, so called, is either a disembodied or a future man, as from the highest archangel down to the last conscious builder. All such men, having lived eons ago, in other world ages, on this or other spheres, so the inferior semi-intelligent and non-intelligent elementals are all future men. That fact alone, that a spirit is endowed with intelligence, is proof to the occultist that being must have been a man and acquired his knowledge and intelligence through the human cycle." And so, while devas and humans often seem to be quite different, in truth, what we have are beings who are at very different phases of their evolution. Nature spirits have not yet acquired an ego, yet. And then other complexities of human layering have not been given to them. They are at the front end of the involutionary wave, in the early stages of individualization, while human beings are in the middle of their journey. Eventually, that devic being will take birth as a human being in the third dimension, acquiring additional subtle energy bodies along with the way to make it happen. Over time, the soul will acquire more and more complexity and learn greater individualization through the power of free will. So apparently the randomness of the free will creates our individuality. It makes us more uniquely defined through the gathering of unique experiences, because no one can see through your eyes, but we are all one. It's like the way they keep showing me, it's like one body with 1 trillion cells in it. All those cells are doing different functions, but we're still in one body. So within this one body, we are one consciousness, and that's why we feel everything that happens to each other, because we're in the same body. That body is soul, and that soul is fractaled out into these individual packets. So we're little packets of soul. And I think that was when I had that vision of all the elders and the masters at that big table, and I was so in awe with their presence. And then they took the hoods down and they lifted back up their hoods, and they were all my face, me. And it was like showing me we're all one. We are all the same consciousness, but it's reflected individually through our experiences and our perceptions of those experiences. But when you take all that away and you get back to the foundation, we're all one, the same sparks of light dancing in an ocean of love and mercy, waiting to fulfill the will of creation. So that is a beautiful concept, and that's what I've always seen. So I said, be careful how close you get to God, because you'll go right back into source, and then there's no individuality anymore, because you're just bathing in the wisdom and mercy and love of creation, and you're like, la, could care less. So with that, yeah, you go back into source. So free will, ultimately, as a human being, it begins the journey towards self-mastery, finally graduating from Earth's school. Thus, human beings are at the outermost realm of the involutionary wave, preparing to begin their return back home to Source. We, ordinary people, are caught equally between the two waves of creation, exactly in the middle of our journey, while the mystics and the masters among us have already moved into union with Source. We will resume with the Devic Kingdom. This is a graph of what they're showing for the soul's evolution. And it's really cool because at first it says we begin as thrones, then seraphim, then cherubim, then principalities, then devas, nature spirits, salamanders, slith, undinines, gnomes, minerals, plants, animals, humans, sages, spirit guides, councils of light, councils of elders, kohans, archangels, powers, virtues, until you reach dominions. And this is what they show. Pretty cool, huh? The cycle of the soul's evolution, our Genesis matrix. The involutionary and evolutionary circle of the soul's descent and ascent, from a place of semi-aware angelic intelligence to a place of mastery, truly claiming our angelic inheritance. And that's what I saw, the earth angel, through this process of dropping down and becoming part of all these different points of creation. Through that process, you go back up. After you drop down, you start to go back up. And that's when you become plant, animal, human, sage, spirit guide, council of light, council of elder, Kohan, archangel, powers, virtues, up to dominions. And that is their cycle that they're showing. And I've seen very similar to this. So I think that's a beautiful concept. So I will see you guys on the next one. We will pick up with the Devic Kingdom. And I hope you guys are enjoying as much as I am. I think it's beautiful knowledge. And take what works for you. Throw away what doesn't. And remember, we're all learning and capturing that what resonates with you. And that which doesn't, throw it away. Because we're all here doing different parts, different pieces. But nonetheless, all of us coming together with all of our differences is the fullness of creation. So much love to you, soul family. Have a wonderful day or evening wherever you may be. Much love to you and favor to you. Namaste. See you on the next one. Bye-bye.